Do you love seeing big yellow numbers flood your screen? Then this 1 minion crit machine is definitely the build for you. This monstrosity hits for way above 2 million, but unlike most Abomination builds, this one doesn't take coffee breaks between swings. No, this bad boy has nearly 300% attack speed. We got some hidden gem unique gloves and a weapon with insane flat minion damage, and an amulet skyrocketing our Abomination's crit damage. And the best part, you only have to summon it once per game session. At 1045 corruption, it's breezing through mobs, leaving a lot of room to push much further. No snapshotting, no switch-ups, just one crazy lady, the open battlefield, and her only friend. This is the Turbo Monster. Abomination. This fella is probably the most controversial minion in last Epoch. The poor guy must suffer from huge confidence issues, with so many players not deeming him good enough by just the way he is. Players changing entire gear and skill setups just to bring him to life, like he's worthless with basic stats. Well, we don't do that here. We love you for who you are, Abomi. We have one build setup and one setup only. No changes or switch-ups, no snapshotting. But to make Abomination strong enough, we do need some top-notch gear. We'll soon look at the unique relic enabling us to juice his attack speed up to insane levels. But first, to even bring our beloved monstrosity to this world, we need minions to assemble it from. And to do this, we summon skeletons and skeletal mages. For the summon skeleton, the only nodes who we really need are the ones giving us additional skeletons, 3 in total from the skill tree. With the additional skeleton from the Necro passive tree as well, we end up with 8 skeletons in total. It's important that we don't remove archers or warriors from the summoned pool, and equally important that we add rogues. This way we end up with 3 different types of skeletons, which is crucial to giving Abomination as much damage as possible. More on that soon. We do the same with skeletal mages. We add both pyromancers and cryomancers to the summoned pool to give us 3 different types of mages. We also take the node giving us 1 additional mage, and in combination with the Necro passive node we end up with a total of 5 mages. But why do we spec into all these different minion types? Well, there's a node in the Abomination tree that gives us 30% more multiplicative damage per type of minion consumed. And since we end up with 6 different minion types, that amounts to 180% more damage just from this synergy. That's wild. And we also spec full points in the skill node giving 15% more multiplicative damage per minion consumed. And we got 13 minions. That adds up to 195% more multiplicative damage. Insane. And speaking of multiplicative damage, we got some mind-blowing nodes in the Dreadshade tree as well. The All for One node giving 40% more damage, and the Doom Wrath node giving 45% more damage when used on Abomination. Heading back to the Abomination skill tree, the next important node we invest max points in is the node giving 125% melee area. This build is not only a boss melter, it's just as much an echo clearer, and to achieve that, this node is absolutely crucial to max out. Now we've finally come to a very important skill node for Abomination survivability. You see, there's a good reason we only consume skeletons and skeleton mages to assemble Abomination. When investing in this particular node, we cannot consume any other minion type. You see, this node disables the health decay of Abomination as long as we never summon 6 or more skeletons and skeleton mages while it's alive, which we never do. This way, the baseline health decay of Abomination that increases over time never kicks in, and we have a permanent one. This is a must for the Abomination health sustain and prevents a lot of time-consuming resummoning. But we still decay its health, and that from 2 sources, but the payoffs are way too huge to not cash in on. First, we add Everlasting Poison from Dreadshade, since we have to take this node to get to the 45% more multiplicative damage node. Secondly, we apply the damage from Infernal Shade to our minions while buffing them with it. More on that soon. Now, we have yet to discuss the arguably most important node of them all for Abomination's damage output. There's a node down to the far bottom left here which is really a game changer, and the best part about it is that we have just enough skill points to spec into it with our near perfect roll of the ambitions of an erased Acolyte relic. Apart from the awesome tier 7 intelligence stat, it has a +2 levels to Abomination, and the baseline stat of +1 level to Acolyte skills. This gives us 3 additional points to spend in the Abomination tree, and it enables us to spec these into the bottom left node, giving us 150% increased attack speed when 5 types of minions are consumed to assemble Abomination. And since we consume 6, we're well on hitting that target. Now we also get 56% increased attack speed from the passive trees, but the last cherry on top comes from Infernal Shade. We put full points into the Manic Pyre node, and this node deserves some attention. When Infernal Shade is attached to a minion, it grants 12% increased movement speed, cast speed, and attack speed per second Infernal Shade has been active, stacking up to a whopping 72%. But the question is, do we ever actually reach that cap? Oh yes, and fast, just 6 seconds. That's because we also grab the Soulfire node, giving Infernal Shade unlimited duration when attached to a minion. And it doesn't stop there. With the Burn Trail node, minions also gain haste, pushing their movement speed to an absurd 102% from this skill tree alone. Okay, so we've determined we got some massive attack speed and multiplicative damage for Abomination, but this has little effect without a lot of flat damage. Now, the majority of it comes from our awesome unique weapon, which we'll look at soon, but first let's look at my favorite item for this build, the Falcon Fist Gloves. But wait, aren't these meant for Falcon or Cinder Strikes builds? Well, yeah, and most of these stats do absolutely zero for us, apart from one. The juicy 23 flat melee damage all the way on the bottom here. And yes, ideally it should be melee physical and not fire damage, but still it scales with all our general increased minion damage, which we have a lot of. And we also got the 150% increased minion elemental damage from the Necro passive tree, scaling it even further. And if you haven't noticed already, we got a 3 LP roll on the gloves, with the flat melee damage being nearly a perfect roll. That's why this is my favorite item for this build, even more than our massive amulet we'll look at soon. We also add a lot of flat damage from the Necromancer passive tree with the minion melee physical damage node and the fire and necrotic node. The 5 flat melee physical damage from the Ribbons of Blood ring also doesn't hurt. But now it's time to bring out the big gun, the Swordcatcher unique two-handed axe. Why do we use this? Well, because of the awesome flat minion melee damage baseline stat. This enables us to also add the 2 minion melee damage affixes on it through legendary crafting. Our axe, well, it only got 1 legendary stat, a juicy high roll tier 7 minion melee damage, but imagine the damage output if we managed to get a higher LP with the other minion melee damage stat. That would crank up the damage to new heights, and it's one of the reasons there's plenty of leeway to push this build much further if you want to. Our Abomination always critically strikes. It's a flood of yellow numbers, all crits, all the time. We obtain this by speccing into the Egoism node or Dreadshade, giving the targeted minion a guaranteed chance to crit. This also enables us to take the Blind Fury node, giving 40% increased attack speed. And since Abomination always crits, the reduced crit chance from this node means nothing. But even though critical strikes are nice, we need to stack crit multiplier to really harvest its power, and this is where our spicy amulet comes into play. But first we also have to look at the Necro passive tree for minion crit multiplier. The Blades of the Forlorn node gives an awesome 70% with full points invested in it. That's 10 points well spent. Apart from that, there's really no sources to boosting Abomination's crit multiplier. Death Rattle is a good candidate, giving up to 65% crit multiplier with a perfect roll. But we got something better. Something boosting the crit to new heights, our crit rolled inheritance of the Erased Amulet. At its core, it provides a solid chunk of health, void resistance and health regeneration. All great baseline stats, but the real highlight is this effect. Every 10 seconds, one of your minions is randomly selected to gain Frenzy and 200% of the stats on this item. In other words, every 10 seconds our Abomination gets the crit multiplier Weaver stat at 3 times its effectiveness. In other words, every 10 seconds Abomination gets the crit multiplier Weaver stat at 3 times its effectiveness, so 87% crit multiplier. And since Abomination is our only minion, it will have this buff constantly. That's why it shines in builds with few or 1 minions, like this build. For builds with more minions, Death Rattle might be the best option, as it gives all minions the crit multiplier at any given time. So, now that you know how everything works behind the scenes, let's look at how to play this. First, we need to assemble Abomination, and to do that we need to summon our 8 Skeletons and 5 Skeletal Mages. Then we channel the Assemble Abomination skill. Press down the skill button until all the minions are consumed and our beloved Abomination enters the world. Finally, buff it with Dreadshade and Infernal Shade and go hunting. And the pro tip is to rebuff it with Infernal Shade whenever an Echo or boss is completed, as Infernal Shade deals more damage over time the longer it has been active. Recasting it will reset this and thus decay its health much slower when in between areas. Now, if you've enjoyed this video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more build guides. It's also possible to join the channel as a member or support me through Patreon, link in the video description. Any support goes a long way. Thank you so much. Let's look at the single target damage for this build. This time we'll do a full Aberoth run, including summoning minions and assembling Abomination, just to be fully transparent and credible on that this doesn't involve any snapshotting or switch ups. First up is the 2 Harbingers, and they don't really act like it. Abomination is full on harassing them. This is easier than taking candy from a baby. Baby, not toddler. Toddlers are actually very hard to take candy from. Anyway, Aberoth's coming up. And that's Aberoth down, quite a breeze. The single target damage for this is really strong, and if you like what you see, make sure to hit the like button. For the skills and passive progressions for this build, follow the detailed progression ladders in the build planner in the video description. At level 4, specialize in Summon Skeleton. At level 8, specialize in Bone Curse and go straight for the Merciless node to buff your skeletons with it. When Summon Skeletal Mage is unlocked, to replace Bone Curse with it, and specialize in Assemble Abomination up next as soon as it's available. At level 35, specialize in Dreadshade, and finally at level 50, specialize in Inferno Shade. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this monstrosity racing through echoes and melting bosses, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more upcoming videos. And click on the video card showing on the screen right now to see my other build guides for last Epoch. Thanks for watching, I hope to see you around.